Hello and welcome back to coverage of the 2023 European Open and the continuation of our moving day coverage. This 4-round event, leaving these players with just this back nine and then the final round. And what a front nine it was. Make sure to go check that out and then join us here if you haven't already. We are at Nokia Disc Golf Park on the Beast, bringing you round 3 back nine MPO chase card coverage, brought to you by MDG Media. I'm Connor Wood, and with me, Ellis Lukanen.
What is up, Connor? What is up, viewers? Let's take a look at the top 10 here. Anthony Barella from the lead card, still leading by 2 strokes, although from our card, Calvin Heimburg and Ezra Aderhold both having great 7-under and 6-under front nines to push that pace, push their position into that tight second. Hopefully gonna make a lead card appearance on the final day tomorrow. One of the last borderline easier holes on the course, hole 10. 230 meters, so it's a long par 4, playing downhill off the drive. You're trying to land somewhere in the gap of these birch trees. You see the OB line lining the long right side and the left side of the fairway, tightening up once you go towards the basket, fence being the OB line at the end on the left and the hay bales on the right. It's a pretty simple 2 hyzer shots if you're a player of this level that we're having on the card. Most people off the tee are trying to get more distance but still stay relatively safe, throw something overstable.
See Calvin up first, smashing his drive off the tee, even getting some leftwards movement around the corner. That is an ideal drive, very nicely placed.
Ezra going wider. I believe he was trying to put a little bit more hyzer on that disc than he did. Now he's not in a great position, gonna have to deal with that big birch tree on the second shot. Let's see if Väinö can fix on that. It looks like he will.
And he has done that nicely, although a little bit shorter, does fade towards the OB line. Although threw it with a very nice width to control that. Comes up to a nice spot. We see Corey really pushing this tree, but all of these shots that look to push it often fade beforehand. And a buttery smooth slide up to also an ideal position. We'll have Ezra up first. Pushed very straight but quite wide, and has to go with a standstill backhand here. Over the OB the entire way, swings it back in. And you see he was unable to get all of the required... Oh, sneaky roll, but totally safe. Couldn't quite get all the distance he needed with the standstill, but a nice shape regardless. Väinö looking to attack the green.
Yeah, talking about nice shapes. That was a perfect shape from Väinö. Just hitting in line with the basket and taking that small skip to the left. Most players are rather trying to fade a little bit left than hanging it out too far wide, as we see from Corey here. And oftentimes you get a little bit of that roll as he does. Just 5 meters left. And Calvin has just a pretty short approach here, only about 90 meters left.
Yeah, very thoughtful design with those hay bales from the local club and course designers, ensuring that those rollaways, while very prevalent, are not punished too much. Ezra is good for it from circle 2 with this driven step putt. I mentioned it in the front nine. He is known for his putting prowess, and you even touched on, Elias, the amount of work he's putting in between rounds, before and after tournaments, really grinding his putt, and we see it pay off. Väinö as well collecting his birdie here on hole 10 with a confident stroke going downhill.
Looks like we're gonna have a pretty good chance for I believe our first star frame of the round. If just Calvin can clean up from 3 meters, which he undoubtedly will. Well done there by the card. As I said, this is the last easier hole, or last hole of this easier stretch on the course, holes 1 through 10. Then a bit more difficult hole here on hole 11. 130 meters going just ever so slightly downhill. Quite often there's a headwind on this hole, making it just a tad bit more difficult. You can see the OB lines super close, and even this OB pond right under the line that you're trying to throw. Most players are trying to go with that wide hyzer, trying to hyzer into the basket over the pond. Hopefully miss those bushy trees on the way. It's a very tight gap for the hyzer, only about 3 to 4 meters wide, and at that 120 meter distance, it's no easy task.
Calvin plays the high and wide hyzer, just keeping it inbounds by a touch, and he is on the green circle to putting. Given that he went long left, maybe putting back towards that pond. We'll see how aggressive he chooses to get. Ezra here on a similar line, trying to crash through the trees and over the top, but finds that aforementioned pond, unfortunately, and will be left with a par save over it from the other side.
Väinö, very high. Does he get the width right? That's really the important thing on this hole. Looks like he's a little bit inside, but those trees that he hit often catch the discs, and he will have putt from 15 meters to get that birdie.
And Corey doing the same, some very similar looking lines here. And you see just by Calvin's disc, both him and Corey are up there on the green, just outside circle 1. We have Väinö up first from the knee. Oh, and a really solid bid. With that airtime looked to be much further away than how it may have looked from our angle. Ezra as well, both Väinö and Ezra not allowing that long distance to prevent them from giving it a good chance. Calvin for birdie.
Solid stroke there. Right on the pole. Let's take another look at that. He was outside the circle here, and just look at the loft he's giving the disc, putting it 2 meters above the basket, dropping in. Corey also doing the same, I believe just from inside the circle compared to Calvin's just outside. This is a great birdie to get. Not a hole that many people are expecting a birdie on.
And Ezra taking the bogey there, finding the OB penalty stroke from the pond. Väinö unable to secure the birdie putt, but walking away with a par. As we see the scores separate a little bit. Calvin at 23 under, Corey at 22, Ezra and Väinö at 21.
Now we're taking a pretty long walk to the complete other side of the park. Going on to this 2-hole stretch on this side. Hole 12 being the first of them. Another one of these 180 meter par 4s. Off the first shot, it's very tricky. You have to go over this hillside, yet stay under the low ceiling. Most people try to throw an extremely low forehand, or a roller is a great play here. If you get the perfect drive, you only have about 80 meters left to go. The approach being much easier part of this hole compared to the drive. You can pretty much crash into this right side hillside on the right side of the circle, and most people are very looking forward to get the birdie here. It's one of the easier on the course, but Calvin finding huge trouble. That OB almost never comes into play, and he's gonna have almost no chance for the par from there.
Yeah, we see the aggressive roller line. Calvin pays the price, but look at the adjustment here. This thing is smoked. Way up the fairway and turning over to the right side. Corey Ellis just laying some heat down on the fairway of 12.
And that's gonna be a simple approach from Corey there. Only about 50 meters left. Väinö also great looking line here. Not quite as far as Corey, but perfectly in the middle of the fairway. Also a simple approach from there. He can pretty much throw any disc in his bag and still park it from there. It's only about 70 meters left.
Ezra going to that power forehand, had a really nice flip up to flat shape. And as he crashes into the hillside, he'll settle nice and soft. The more traditional line there, I think, for most players who are not comfortable with the power roller. Calvin is, I'm guessing, going to try and bite off a lot of distance here just to make up for that bad break early on.
This looks
This
perfect.
Inside, low, powerful. Wow! He has made it to the green and will be putting for par. Let's take another look at just how he managed to do that. That is an insane shot from way early in the fairway. Just a power line drive low the whole way and catching the late fade into the green or just before it, but certainly putting. What an incredible line.
He was somehow able to keep it low under the ceiling, but still get it high enough to get that distance. And Ezra almost running the basket. He has faded out left though, which is a terrible place to be on this green. There's a lot of stinging nettles, a lot of slope, a lot of bushes. And let's see Väinö here. Just a simple approach to the green. He's outside the bullseye there. Pretty much a tap-in birdie. And Corey will have even an easier time here. Just 50 meters left.
And comes up just a little bit short, but very manageable. This would be a huge putt for Calvin. Wow. Very well could be one of the only human beings to hit first available and save the par on this hole. Calvin Heimburg with the slow-mo replay on the putt. Had the initial mistake off the tee, but manages to save the par. One of the most incredible moments that you'll see on this hole.
I think that is the shot of the tournament so far. At least what we have seen on coverage. No other shot has been so precise, so powerful. Not to overlook though, as these other guys are taking their birdies. Calvin still with that incredible shot, losing a stroke to everybody on the card. Well played by the other guys and really showing how a good drive can make this hole seem pretty easy.
And I'd have to agree with you, although you don't want to have to make that drive, these guys playing cleanly, Calvin does make it.
Moving on to somewhat similar of a hole here. It's once again, if you throw a good drive here, it's a pretty easy hole. You have this tight gap early, and once again, you have a high floor, but a low ceiling. So height control, very important on this drive. You want to throw something straight going through the gap and ending up in this open field. If you manage to do that, you have a pretty simple approach. Most people are going with an overstable approach disc for the approach, trying to skip it up to the green. Only difficulty for the approach and for putting especially is this sloped green. You see just behind the basket is a pretty steep slope. If you miss it from the short side of the basket, you're likely to be rolling down to a circle's edge.
Corey getting us started with the backhand and finds one of these early branches. Does not hit the initial gap. Väinö going roller here, shaping that turnover nicely, but we saw it with the amount of airtime that he had before connecting with the ground and the understability of the disc. It had already flipped over before it connects, not quite having the room to turn and roll. Ezra with a great driven forehand. Anything past those purple trees and into this open field is an ideal spot, allowing players to attack the green and the sign of a great drive. Calvin looking to do the same as well, although with a bit more fade up the hill. That's no worries though, going down towards that last guardian tree. He's also in a good position. Let's see what Corey's left with.
This is still, in a way, kind of almost reachable from here, but looks like he slipped it out left to those red, purplish trees. Got through pretty well, so should be no problem for the par there. And look at this angle from Väinö. He has to go with this low, skipping hyzer shot. The line looks great. Is the distance good? He has gone a little bit long, but what an impressive shot from that position. I'm sure Väinö is very content with that result.
And even clipped a branch on his way, slowed him down a bit, and he pushed OB long. Calvin with a similar result there, firing just past the basket. A lot of players don't want to be left on the short side of that tree and try to get around the back, but you mentioned that slope comes into play very quickly. And speak of the tree, Ezra does hit it. Is just outside the circle. Circle's edge putt for birdie for Ezra. And Corey here looking to just save his par, put this one close.
And he does. Good touch there. And this is a scary putt from Ezra. He needs to hit it unless... Yeah, that is rolling down slightly. Looks like it flipped over though. So no trouble there. And Väinö for that great birdie. Birdie save almost, I would call. He does not get it though. And Calvin also has some work left to do from the edge of the circle here. Not an easy putt, but of course he makes it. That putting stroke is looking absolutely dialed right now.
And he is currently 10 down here on hole 13. I believe the course record currently sitting at 12 under, held by Anthony Barella at the moment. Calvin is on pace to potentially try to push that course record here today, as we see some short par tap-ins for the remaining players. And they'll take their walk to hole 14.
Hole 14. Another one of these birdieable holes. This time we're going on a slight downhill par 3. Want to throw something straight towards these trees and hopefully turn over just ever so slightly before them. Take your glide towards the right. Often we see people landing a little bit short on this hole because it is going downhill to start but uphill to finish. So especially with that turnover, difficult to keep it in the air for long enough to get to the basket. Let's see if Calvin can do it though. Great height on this shot. Almost going for the ace.
But look at the speed. He crashes into that backside slope of the hill. Wow. Rare to see players go so long, as you mentioned. Maybe even trying to throw it in. This hole is one of the few that can allow that. Corey bleeding out a little bit to the left, doesn't turn in time into the late gap, and will likely fall to the bottom of the valley. Very rare that discs that get caught up exactly there don't just funnel to the bottom. Although there's not too much danger, you still have a considerably steep uphill approach to the green. Ezra looking to make the adjustment on those shots, gives it just a little bit to inside. Only Calvin able to pierce through purely.
Quite surprising from the card here. It's not one of the more difficult shots on the course. The gap is pretty wide. Looks like everybody besides Calvin is looking at a par save. Väinö even with a difficult shot here. But he makes it work. This is a great place for the crowd to watch some action. You see they're lining up at the top of the hill. And gotta give a shout out. I was mentioning the ace run from Calvin. This hole was actually aced by Pekka Hyvönen. As Calvin misses it. That's a surprising miss after many great putts. But yes, Pekka Hyvönen aced the hole. You can find the video on Disc Golf Pro Tour's Instagram. As Väinö also One of the shortest putt misses I have possibly ever seen from him.
So these other guys will look to tap in their pars. An unfortunate bogey for Väinö off that missed putt. And Elias, did Pekka throw a backhand or a forehand?
Pekka threw a backhand Firebird, actually, a surprising disc for this hole.
Incredible.
And now we're moving on to the legendary last final holes of the beast. This is really where the separation is made, starting on 15. Very difficult par 3, going down the hill 145 meters. You have the option of laying up short of this OB area, but not expecting any of these players to take that option, but rather going with a straight to overstable fairway driver, trying to throw it flat or with a slight hyzer downwards towards the basket, hopefully fade just a touch to the left to avoid that right side bush. Calvin has a really good shot for this hole as he likes these line drives.
And he smashed this one low and flat. Very fortunate to not catch any skip. He lands it flat as well to the green, and with little ground play is right up there putting for birdie. Corey looking to do the same, although this is considerably higher. It's going to get, I think, too much fade as he will battle left side OB. But keeps it safe. A great result there. And we get a follow flight, I believe, from the drone. Let's take another look.
What a beautiful camera angle here. Making this hole look way shorter than it actually is. That's very interesting. And you can see even Corey taking a pretty soft skip, not really getting that huge leap to the left. Stays in bounds, and that's already great to have 2 birdie chances on the card. Let's see if the other guys can match that. Ezra with the good looking line. Needs to fade.
He sneaks out the back into inbounds. Really fortunate, and amusing, Elias, that we both saw that and thought, what an amazing line, but in the end had to contend with those bushes. However, made it work, snuck through in time. Väinö trying to get over the OB River, and I believe he has done so. 4 birdie chances here on hole 15, a hole that averages 3.48, almost a half stroke over par. We have Väinö up first.
That is great play from the card already. I bet almost no other card probably had even 4 drives in bounds. Especially not in bounds on this side of the river. Let's see Calvin here. For the birdie, he gets it, cleans up that putting error from the last hole and pushes his score into 11 under. He has a real chance to possibly claim that course record of 12 under. If he can just keep his composure for the last holes.
Ezra on strong side chains. Look to take advantage of a fortunate break through that tree. Väinö tapping in the par.
And Corey also
Corey as well with his par.
Just a par here, which is a good score on this hole. You're usually not very disappointed with getting the par. Of course, Ezra with that inside the circle miss might be a little bit disappointed. Hole 16 here, another legendary hole off the Beast course. It's 222 meters par 4. You see the lines on the left and right side of the fairway. That is actually bunker hazard, meaning that if you go outside of the fairway, you will have to rethrow with no penalty. So even if you cross inbounds area, you will have to rethrow if you end up outside the lines. Coming into play mostly on the approach. The drive is pretty simple, it's just a hyzer. But this approach, the green is very tight, only probably less than 10 meters in depth, looking from where they're gonna throw their approaches from. Calvin here. trying to get in bounds.
And not bad. Looked to be a little bit straight, but a nice overstability to the end of his flight. We'll see Corey's shot now, I think, likely looking to have it fade slightly more left than Calvin's, and he actually takes the wider of the two gaps. Happy to accept not as much distance, but potentially a better placement, and he actually ends up on that gravel walking path. No problem there, but slightly sloped on either side may contribute to some troubles on the walk-up. Ezra with an even higher and wider line, really looking to spike this one in. And that's some great placement there.
Perfect shot from Ezra. It's not a lot of distance. He can throw a putter mid-range or even an overstable fairway driver from there. And Väinö also very wide here. Needs to get back to avoid that long side OB or a bunker area rather. And he's on the line. What a great break there. Doesn't have to go again. And Corey is actually not going for the island. He's only laying up to the edge of the fairway, making that approach much easier for himself.
Calvin going for it here. A critical moment towards the end of an incredible round, and he sticks it. Not only does he stick it, but he is parked from way downtown. Incredible power and accuracy. Let's take another look at that drive from the catch cam angle.
And Calvin here being further away than most people are comfortable with, still going for the green. Having to go with a fairway driver instead of a slower disc, but just play to perfection. Let's see if Väinö can match that. A little less distance here, still going with a hyzering shot, but this is too wide. This needs to get back, which it does not. He will have to throw again. Now he's throwing 3 from the same position, still going for the green though.
Elias, how do you feel about this slightly untraditional rule set? A great adjustment there from Väinö, flashing chains. Not able to get any distance off a inaccurate throw, but without the penalty. What are your thoughts on a design like that?
As Ezra throws a good shot, I think it really suits this hole specifically, because it's been a tradition for a long time. It's really kind of one of the most signature holes of the course. As Corey hits the basket. Short roll, only about 5 meters left here. But yeah, I think it really suits this hole and kind of makes this hole, it has ruined a lot of tournaments for people. It has also created some epic moments, and every time you hit the island, especially with the huge crowd behind the basket, we didn't quite get a great look at it, but there's multiple hundred, even 1,000 people watching on this hole. It really creates for
incredibly
an epic finish.
polarizing. We see some amazing birdies from Ezra and Calvin there. People love it or they hate it, but you're absolutely right. It generates excitement and really suits for that hole specifically. We move on to hole 17.
Once again, very difficult hole. This time, par 3. Going downhill 140 meters. Fairway is sloping from right to left the whole way. Most people are either trying to throw a backhand straight that just barely fades left at the end towards the basket. Watch out for that fade though, because the OB left comes into play very quickly. Or, if you have a huge forehand, you can even go for a forehand hyzer on this hole. Calvin looks to be going for a mid-range here, trying to remove that fade from the flight.
And he is coming in pretty quick, but able to settle. That's a nice spot. And I believe with his birdie on 16, Calvin is currently sitting at a 12 under round, matching the course record and taking his share of the pie. We see Ezra blasting the power forehand out and battling with everything available on the left side. Unfortunately, does not bring it back in bounds, although we'll see if he's still left with a manageable putt. Difficult to say exactly when and where he crossed. Corey erring to the side of caution. Very common with the backhand that players will overturn it because fading out left is the most obvious error to make with the leftwards fading shot.
And Väinö, very good angle here. Looks to be just a little bit low. Angle was perfect, turning over like Calvin's. Does not get the fade though. And Corey here, this is one of the more difficult layups you're gonna see. It is so steep. And expect Väinö as well to just lay up here. Need to land it flat with the hillside. And he does it well there. Calvin 413, and he gets it. He's beating the course record currently with one stroke with that incredible birdie. And look at the streak. The 4 most difficult holes on the
The
course.
man's on fire.
He's got 3
so
birdies
few mistakes
already.
this round, and yeah, even when he made mistakes, think back to his drive after hitting first available on the roller on, I believe, hole 12. He just, when he does make a mistake, really corrects on it, and otherwise just scorching hot. We see Corey with this tap in 3. We saw Ezra with the nice par save from the OB line, and Väinö after his layup as well. We go into the final hole. Corey and Ezra tied at 23 under, Calvin at 27, and Väinö at 21. The final hole of round 3. What do we have, Elias?
Yeah, what a final hole it is. 230 meters, par 4. You see the OB line lining the left side of the fairway, making this dogleg shape. Even though it is pretty open, most people are trying to match the inbounds area. Off the tee, you're either going over the inbounds area with a turnover or forehand. Some people even going for a shorter straight shot layup with a slow disc. If you get the perfect position, you can have various distances to the green, but almost always it is a right-hand backhand hyzer shot. Need to be cautious with that OB that is creeping well inside the circle on the green. So Calvin here need to be in bounds on this hole. And looks like he will. That's a very safe shot.
Yeah, very conservative. I think he knows he's put together an amazing round. Just looking to close out strong. We see a beautiful overhead angle of Ezra's drive. Needing this to turn a little bit more. Looks to be bleeding out towards OB. Sneaks back in bounds for a second, but gets that final roll back out of bounds left. He could still save par, although will need a ton of distance on his upshot uphill. Corey there firing one off into the top of that evergreen. And he might be in a very compromised position. The heart of those can be difficult to get out of. Väinö with a textbook execution and a perfect drive. Best of the card.
Well done there, and everybody on the card going for a shorter drive here. Corey, after that tree hit, having to just pitch up to the corner, still gonna have a challenging shot left to the green.
Ezra going power hyzer up the hill. Has left himself center fairway with a long look for his par save. Maybe he's checking scores and is aware that his standing might be good enough. That will be left up to him. The decision to make. Calvin here looking like he's fading a little bit early. And unfortunately on his approach will find OB to the left side. And from there, I think just outside a comfortable putting range even for him. Corey blasting his approach up the hill into the green. And look at the ground play.
What
a
a
great
great
touch from Corey Ellis.
Perfect angle, keeping that steep hyzer all along the flight. And Väinö here with the shortest approach of all. Still going with an overstable fairway driver, I believe. Looks great. Is he gonna hit the basket? Not quite. Still on the edge of the bullseye there. Well done from Väinö. Solid performance. Representing Finland in this Finnish major. Nice to have some Finnish people right near the top. And Calvin here, let's see. He still has a chance to save that course record. He just lays it up. Settles with the share of the old course record. Still an incredible round. Best of the tournament so far.
Absolutely, he can hold his head high. Ezra just a little bit low on his putt attempt there to save par, potentially, most likely taking a bogey alongside Calvin here to end out his round. And a very respectable round, ending at 7 under as well. Had some incredible moments here. What a card and what a performance from all 4 of these men. Väinö with a tap-in birdie. The love from the Finnish crowd as he salutes them. What an amazing moment it must be. Calvin there, 12 under. You touched on it, just sharing the old course record. Scorching hot. Corey on a little bit of a par streak towards the end of his round, but also had some fantastic moments. The Beast really encouraging these players to give it their all, and what a highlight this round was.
Yeah, thank you, Connor. That was such a pleasure doing this commentary with you. One of the most exciting rounds I have seen. And probably gonna be even more exciting tomorrow for the final round.
Absolutely. We take a look at the standings. Calvin Heimburg's 12 under leaves him in solo first place. In second is AB. In third, Corey Ellis from our card. And then tied in fourth, we have Kyle Klein, Väinö Mäkelä, Ezra Aderhold, Eagle McMahon. This chase card really putting in the work here in round 3, and you see the results it has yielded them. They have snuck their way possibly onto lead card alongside Calvin. And what an event. Incredible coverage. Some extra drone views coming your way as well. The production value is increasing with every event, and we appreciate your support. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're feeling extra supportive, check out the Patreon. We appreciate all of you joining us for every round we produce and are happy to have you. We'll see you in round 4, the final of the European Open.